Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. You are somewhere in the world at this moment in time, and I've no idea what time it is where you are. But right now, for me in the UK, it's just coming up to 5 p.m. I've got a nice English cup of tea at the ready. I am an absolute archetype of what you would expect from an Englishman on a summer's day. And I'm joined by somebody who is probably a legend, I think, in their own lunchtime, in their own lifetime. And I was very fortunate to meet last year when we both happened to bump into each other at Drupa in Dusseldorf. And actually, we were at an off-site event. David Zwang, please meet Print Island. Print Island, please meet David Zwang.
Well,
we were doing an off-site, weren't we, for Fujifilm? As I remember.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Nice
it was great to meet you there, David, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. You are my first guest on the Lighthouse at Print Island, and this is our little section, a bit of bonus content for subscribers where I bring guests on to chat with really freely. We've got no script, we've got no plan, to talk about the 360-degree view of the global print industry, hence the Lighthouse. Every island needs a lighthouse, right? So we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best to extend that metaphor as much as possible, strangle the life out of it, shine a light on every part of the industry today. But David, it's an absolute joy to have you on and lovely to see you. How have you been?
Rich, I have been great, busy. It is summertime. I've been able to capture little pieces of relaxation, but they seem to be fleeting. But do what you got to do. I love the Lighthouse theme, and because my basic philosophy as I go out and I speak to printers and converters, etc., is they need to think 360 degrees. They tend to think printers, converters, etc. They know what they need to do. They know their business. Sure. They've been doing it this way. They know how to do it, etc. But things have changed, and the changes around them. And as these things change, if you're not looking at it in a 360, you're going to miss something.
Well, you used an expression that I will repeat because I'm not scared to. That the shit had hit the fan today in your office, and that's fine if you can see the direction that the shit's coming from. But in a 360-degree world, it could sometimes catch you on the back of the head,
Absolutely.
Right? And you absolutely need eyes in the back of your head. And I think where we are in the world right now, with all the difficulties that's going on in many ways and for many reasons which we won't get into, is there's never been a better time to take that 360-degree view. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that one of the problems is that because people are just so accustomed to doing what they need to do. We had this saying here, well, it's okay. It doesn't matter how I get it done as long as I get it done before FedEx comes at the end of the day to pick it up. And that's one way of looking at it. However, basically you can walk around with a fire hose all day long, which is kind of what many people do. Or you can stop, that's the hard. It's easy for me to say, okay, stop, and think and look. Get a clean sheet of paper. Easy for me when you're busy with the fire hose. You don't have time to stop necessarily, but it's one of those things you absolutely have to do. It's just like the machine. You have machines in your facility, right? And many people tell you, manufacturers especially, you need to do preventative maintenance. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And if you don't, the machine is going to stop at some point, and inevitably it's going to be at a time you're not expecting it to.
or 5 minutes before FedEx turn up.
Right, exactly. So is it important? So it's important to stop and just stop, get a blank sheet of paper, and to think about where do you fit, not only what do you do in your business and in your manufacturing, in your plant, in your production facility, how do you deal with your customers, but how do you fit into the broader supply chain? And I say that only because that's the way it works. You go in and you buy something in a retail store, you take it off the shelf. It already knows it's come off the shelf in most places. It's already put the order in for the next thing to replace it. And that is how your future play is going to be, and you need to understand that.
Yeah, 100%. And I gave somebody a little bit of my wisdom. When you get to our age, David, you can give people wisdom rather than advice. And it was don't spend all day putting out fires. find out who's bringing the matches.
Yeah.
And that it may well be a human person bringing the matches, or it may well be the machines. But either way, you've got to work out. Don't worry about the fires, worry about the matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So listen, David, thank you for joining me today on this first episode of The Lighthouse. I think if there's anybody left in the world, and I'm sure there isn't, that doesn't know what the hell you do, give me your 30-second elevator pitch of who you want.
That's
all right, 3 minutes.
Okay, so first of all, I wear a bunch of hats. Okay, so from an industry standpoint, what do I do? From an industry standpoint, I'm a consulting analyst, and I work with print service providers. I work with manufacturers of equipment and developers of software. I work with people who buy print, consumer product companies, etc. I also am the chairman of the Ghent Work Group. We have been developing standards and best practices for the industry in advance of knowing that we are going to be needing these things to the supply chain. So basically, we knew what we had to do 20 some odd years ago when we started this thing, but it's taken the technology and our development and the industry to be able to kind of catch up to us or to each other, if you will. So that's another one of my hats. I write for What They Think and a number of other publications. What else do I do? I run a public water company. Go figure.
What? Hang on. What? Stop right there. What? You run a public water company? How does that work?
Yeah, that I do. I was going to say I do it in my spare time, but yes, no. I live in a rather good-sized community, medium-sized community. I have a degree in biochemistry. I got drafted into managing. We have our own water company where we produce water for this environment. There's 260 homes, whatever, and so they said, well, sounds like you understand technology and you understand science. Okay, you run the water company. And so I've been building that, doing it actually in the midst of revamping it, updating it, like people need to do in their facilities, in their print facilities. I have to do it here. The controls, the control systems, the software. I need to run Windows.
This is completely off topic, but does it boil down that locally then in the US? I mean, I'm sitting in the UK today, and we have the most fabulous national water assets.
We don't do anything nationally in the US. We don't collect.
No, it's all down at a local level, isn't it?
Everything is regional, and getting down to even local. So, for example, we talk about sustainability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I look at what the EU is doing. I look at what China's doing, what other countries are doing with sustainability. Well, we have these regulations, and this is what you need to do. And recycling in the U.S. is not only isn't it regional, it's barely local. It could be down to a city. It could be down to parts of a city. Wow. So try to organize something around that kind of morass. It becomes difficult.
Yeah. Well, let's take that metaphor back into the print industry, because one of the things that you'll be seeing now more of, as we all are, is almost the go big or go home philosophy for a lot of print companies and groups that are. There's a lot of M&A activity going on. There's some disruption in terms of liquidation receivership. We've all heard about Lander in the last few days. What do you see? From that scale and the way that the industry is moving towards, where do you see the pitfalls? Because if we go away from that local perspective and almost that site perspective, and it becomes part of a bigger conglomerate, where do you see the issues coming from?
Okay, so first of all, yes, if we're talking about kind of the large volume printed products, and I could even say mid-size or medium volume printed products, if they are kind of constrained design products with very little unique qualities to them, because print is, look, print, we think about print as really, it's a manufacturing process. That's all it is. And it's a custom manufacturing process. The problem is that print is getting less custom in many areas, in many product lines, etc. But then again, there's this other thing that's going on in print, and that is technology-driven innovation around print technologies, which is allowing the growth of new products, new solutions, new things. So if you are a creative and you want to start a business, or you are small enough where you have that flexibility and looking to do new things, well, there's a lot of things and there's a lot of opportunity in print and packaging, for that matter, to do that. On the other hand, if you are just cranking out how, I need, 2 million labels, or I need, 25,000 of this and 50,000 of that and 75,000 of that. Well, okay, now you're in the commodity business. And once you get into the commodity business, all of a sudden, you're right. Go big or go home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about price at that point as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what's quite interesting, and I'd like your take on this, David, please. I had a conversation last year with one of the world's largest advertising agencies. And they sort of shrugged their shoulders when I started to talk about print. And I said, what's the problem? And they went, why does the print industry continue to want to talk about the print industry? Why can't it talk in terms that today's consumer would understand? Because when they hear the word print, they think newspapers, they think magazines. Whereas everything we touch, everything we're surrounded by all day and every day is largely printed at some point. Mm-hmm. His contention was, why can't we start to call it content? And,
well,
and in doing,
I think it is.
I agree, but I think it's how we refer to it. So in terms of
beyond content, I think it's product. It's interesting. So I was invited to Heidelberg. I think it was last month. It seems like yesterday, and I was having conversations with the management there, and they said, we used to think of ourselves as basically selling presses and printing equipment to providers. Now we have to start thinking of ourselves as being able to produce product, which is going to be very different. It's going to be, we were talking before, I said something before about commodity. There are a lot of niche applications and products. There are a lot of new applications and products. And if you want to play, whether you are a print service provider, or you're a machine manufacturer, or you are a software developer, you have to be aware of the fact that those things and those dynamics are going to be constantly changing. So nothing else, you got to be nimble, and creative.
Well, that was always true, wasn't it? But I think as technology has invaded, if that's the right word, the print industry more and more. And in fact, in many ways, I would argue now that it's the tech industry. It just doesn't know it. And
I would agree. Yeah.
That sort of approach to the world is enabling the brands, the consumers, the agencies, really to utilize print more than they've possibly ever been able to, or thought they were ever able to in the past, which should, in theory, revitalize the industry, right?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that before we started recording, although I don't remember now, we were talking about marketing and how printers don't necessarily understand how to market themselves. They know how when somebody who wants to market something comes to them, they know how to help them move this within their toolbox to get that done. But ultimately, I'm starting to see little pieces of it here and there now. A printer will go into, or a service provider, a converter, whatever, will go into a consumer product company, somebody who's going to procure some kind of print signage, whatever, and say, how you been? What's going on? What are you guys up to? What are you doing now? Talking to their, what are you doing? Oh, you're doing that. Gee, I wonder, maybe we can help with something, right? Or we can do this. So instead of trying to push, right? Something that they may or may not need. Why don't you understand what they really need and see if you can't develop something around that? You know?
Well, this is the pull push marketing that the marketeers talk about, but
Yeah.
the manufacturers don't tend to, because they one of the reasons that created Print Island in the first place, and again we were talking earlier on about the history of this, which was a speech that I gave 7 years ago in Brussels about how I, as an outsider, saw that the industry was so brilliant and so technically innovative, but not very good at telling other people, and it was like they all lived on the island. This is where the Print Island thing has come from. So what would you suggest? It's interesting you make a point there about they're very good at helping other people that want to do the marketing.
Mhm.
What would you suggest they do to help themselves?
Well, I think that it's easy to say they should hire some kind of a marketing person, and depending on the size of their operation, they may or may not be able to do that. But I think it's really more when marketing. A lot of marketing is about, again, it's push pull, right? So
Yeah.
if you've got a product and you want to sell it, well then okay, then how can I create an environment where people want to buy that, right? And that's one way to get at it. The
Hmm.
other way, which I think is probably a better way, again, unless we're into this mass commodity kind of driven manufacturing, is to find out hi, you're a new business. What do you guys do? What That's an interesting thing. The new business goes up. Just what do you do? You don't have to start with I'm a printer. We do manufacture. We do custom manufacturing. What do you do? What kinds of
Mm.
things do you do? And maybe there's a fit somewhere. Maybe there isn't. But
Mm.
until you have
Mm.
that discussion, you don't even know.
I think we should set up some kind of online speed dating
There you
agency
go.
for
Speak.
for.
Yeah.
Let's move on from that particular subject. David, you and I have spent a lot of time, traveling around the world. Very fortunately, standing on stages and giving people our opinions at an awful lot of trade shows and conferences around the world.
Mhm.
Last time you and I met was at Drupal, and I got the feeling I came away from Drupal thinking, I just know, a nagging sense in the back of my mind that maybe it was time for the trade shows to evolve. Everybody bounced back from COVID, but they sort of bounced back in the same way. There didn't appear to be an evolution. I'd be interested to know from your perspective where you see the world of print trade shows going over the next 5 years.
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is you have to understand what a print trade show is.
Hmm.
Why is it there? Why do people go to a print trade show? And if you talk to the people who go to these shows, they go there for a couple of reasons. They may go to look at a piece of equipment that they're thinking about buying or not. Usually, they may or may not have made that decision already, but they want to see it. They want to touch it, kick the tires, etc. Another reason they go is because they want to see what else is out there, because they want something, maybe creatively, they can learn something about, oh, that's new. Now, what can I do with that? Okay. And it's usually not going to be in the big booths. It's going to be in the little booths, but that doesn't
Yep.
matter. That it's going to be there. It's going to be on the show floor. And the other reason they go is they want to see compatriots. They want to see other
Hmm.
people, like-minded people, so that they can understand, first of all, am I sane? Am I still doing, are you doing this? Oh, okay. So I know I'm not completely crazy. And have those discussions. And I think that that to me, that is what a trade show is about. So, can it be presented differently? Yeah, probably. But I mean, I think as long as you understand that those are the components of a good trade show,
Mm.
education to a degree, although having on-site education during a trade show is tough. What I found, and this is going back decades, is the people who go unless it's something very specific they had to hear about, they go there just because they're looking for a place to sit down because their feet are
Yeah,
tired.
that's very true. Yeah, and somewhere to clear their emails, and that's the bit that always sort of worries me. I think about and not just the print industry, but trade shows in general.
Yeah.
That they have been, over the years. I think they've proliferated beyond the need for as many of them as there became, and the cost of attending trade shows has grown and grown and grown. And I guess, and this isn't against the events industry, but yeah, they're trying to take more money off less people, which my father always used to describe that as an elegant death. And I'm just curious to know from contemporaries around the industry and around the world what the feeling is, because, to a certain extent, you're absolutely right. The main reasons for going to trade shows you've highlighted beautifully. But then do you have, how many do you go to? How often do you go?
Well,
Where do you go?
exactly. And I think that because it's a business, the
Mm,
people who run the trade shows make money. The people who support the people who run the trade shows make money.
mm,
The only people, well, the people who attend, they're attending. Are they making money?
mm,
Not necessarily. The people
mm.
who are sponsors and who are exhibitors, well, they hope they're going to make money. That's one of the reasons they do it. Um, but I think that there needs to be a balance. And
Yeah,
yes, I believe that there are too many trade shows for sure. But part of the problem is it goes back to what when we started the conversation earlier. What is print? And you go to something like Drupa where they try to cover the waterfront, if you will, right? It's everything. Well, we've got textiles and we've got industrial and we've got magazines and commercial and da 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 da, packaging. But putting on a big show like that's a big, big, big. I mean, that's why they don't do it every year. They can't do it every year if they wanted
no,
to.
quite. Mm,
So then how do you segment it out? And of course, everybody, again, it's still a money making operation for the person who's
mm,
running it or the
mm.
organization that's running it, and the people who support that. The trade show business
Industry. Yeah,
industry.
yeah, you're right. And I noticed as well, there's been quite a shift, certainly in Europe. I think a little bit in the US as well. COVID did this really for a lot of businesses. The major manufacturers, of course, have built their own demo centers.
Yeah.
They're actually now hosting their own trade shows to a
Oh yeah.
certain extent, because why pay out millions of dollars to be right next door to your biggest competitor
They
when you
already,
can
in most, well, not in all cases, but in many cases, they know who their potential target and market is. So
yeah,
but then again, that goes back to, remember the three pieces, right? So okay, so I know this. I'm going there to kick the tires. I'm going there to look at, because I know I need to buy something. Okay, that's one of them. And I've been to many of these hosted events at the manufacturers, and they do a great job of it. And they'll bring in a couple of partners. It's nothing like any of the bigger trade shows. So
hmm
we still get it, and they're going to have, they'll have some people there. Maybe they'll get 50 people, 25 people, 50, maybe 100 people. Well, does that satisfy the other two pieces that we talked about, the other two components? Do you get that full discussion? Am I crazy or not? What are you up to? And more importantly, what else can I be doing? What's new on the horizon?
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? And there has always been the fear of missing out, which I think has driven an awful lot of people to attend and exhibit at trade shows around the world. But I guess in these uncertain times that we are undoubtedly living in, the world isn't short of cash; it's short of confidence, and it's quite hard at the moment to see where the next acceleration is going to come from. Here's my big question for the day, David.
Yeah.
As we stand at the top of the lighthouse here on Print Island, looking 360 degrees.
Yeah.
What do you see? What do you see coming down the line? You've been around long enough now, and I'm trying to be polite. You've been around long enough now to see several iterations of the global print industry. I don't just mean the local print industry. What do you see coming next from our vantage point up here on top of the lighthouse?
Okay, so it's interesting. First of all, you say iterations, and when people ask me, how do you do what you do, and how do you stay on top of it? Basically, I just tell them I've been riding the wave. And I think that as you look at how this has evolved and the industry has evolved, it has been a wave. And when I started uh, initially in photography, well, initially in biochemistry, but then in photography, and working with film and developing film in trays, and then going to taking the film and putting it into a film processor, right? And then eliminating film completely. And then, but these have all been incremental steps, but they've been incremental steps within that bubble that we call print production and manufacturing. And again, what we need to do, though, is and we're starting to see a little bit of that, as I said earlier, we need to think about ourselves as a part of a supply chain. And once we do
Yeah.
that, then we start to see all these other opportunities and other things. And more importantly, you get it's like, oh, that's the direction we're heading. Okay, now I know what I need to do to support that direction. And then you look at the opportunity. There's still a lot of opportunities out there.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I kind of see the industry as almost like an advent calendar, that every time you open a new door, there's another opportunity behind it, and a small bit of chocolate, which is quite nice. And of course, the latest door that's opened up is the world of AI. And I can't let this conversation go by without touching on that, and really not the detail and the depth and the benefits and the pros and the cons, but just as another change point, another pivot point for not just the print industry but every industry. Where do you stand on the use of and the adoption of AI as another tool in the toolbox?
Well, if it is a tool, if the AI is part of a tool that will help you do your job better, what the hell?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But to think that AI is the answer to everything and anything. I mean, I have conversations with people now. It's like, well, yeah, I use ChatGPT for everything, and I'm getting stuff to me, and I'm going, oh, that was done in ChatGPT. I mean, come on, really?
Yeah.
Where the hell did the creativity go? What do you have a mind of your own? Where are you thinking? And I think that we got to be careful there. That's all.
Yeah.
But
no, I agree, and actually, I said to a client a couple of weeks ago that AI as an artificial intelligence is great where it's needed, but
right.
AI as an actual intelligence, humans.
Yeah.
Should in theory always be needed.
Yeah, well, I would hope, but
who knows?
As I said, I've been around the block a few times. I don't know how much more I got, but I'll keep running. I'll keep fighting.
Gotta keep running. Listen, David, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this first episode of the Lighthouse Conversations here on Print Island. I'm delighted to have you on. It's lovely to catch up with you as well. We don't see each other often enough, so I'm looking forward to running into you at one of those million trade shows at some point
somewhere, some country, planet, wherever. Absolutely.
Exactly. But for now, David Zwang, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.